Hi everyone, Professor Hallows here. I'll be talking to you about some of the concepts, basic concepts of Chapter 4 in these intro videos for Chapter 4. And there are 4 intro videos. In this chapter, we're going to emphasize the importance of the concept of time value of money by using personal finance examples. So far, especially in Chapter 3, we've used fairly simple models to solve for present value and future value. But in the real world, few situations requiring the time value of money theory are that straightforward and simple. In this chapter, we'll use more timelines, mathematical formulas, financial calculators, and Excel spreadsheets to calculate the value of various investments such as annuities, perpetuities, and uneven cash flows. We'll also talk about how to calculate variables other than present value and future value, such as the payments required, a rate of return, and the number of periods necessary to achieve a financial goal. If you can get this chapter under your belt, you will ace finance. It's a very important chapter because finance is all about valuation. So these are the learning objectives. Well, when we're done with this chapter, when you're done listening to these videos, going to class, reading the chapter, doing your homework, the quizzes, you will know how to value a series of many cash flows, whether they're even, uneven, and value a perpetual series of regular cash flows called a perpetuity. You're going to be able to value a common set of regular cash flows called an annuity. And when those cash flows grow at a constant rate, you're going to be able to value the perpetuities and annuities and compute the number of periods, cash flow, and rate of return on a loan or investment. So let's talk first about using a financial calculator. We're going to be using financial calculators throughout the course as well as spreadsheets. When you solve for the present and future value, there are 5 variables when performing these when working these problems. The number of periods, which is N, the present value, PV, payment, which is the set of payments at the end or beginning of any period, the future value, which is, of course, at the end of the period, at the end of the timeline in question, and I divided by Y, or interest per year. Each function takes 4 of these variables as inputs and returns the value of the 5th one that ensures that the NPV of the cash flows is 0. And then the next step is to set up the timeline. When you look at a problem, the first thing you're going to figure out is what are the variables that we're looking at? What are we trying to solve for? Then you're going to set up the timeline. And in this timeline, you see that there are tick marks where there's a number 1 and a payment below it. The number 1 stands for the end of period 1, which is also the beginning of period 2. The tick mark with the 2 above it is the end of period 2, the beginning of period 3. All the way to the number of periods, whatever is under question, 10, 20, 30, whatever. And then the payment below that, if a payment is received at the end of that time period, plus any future value amounts that may accrue. Please watch the videos on ELM about the calculators. Especially, most of you are probably going to be using the TI-83 or above. To do time value of money problems, you use the Second Finance or APPS, number 1 finance, number 1 time value of money solver, or some of you may be using the TI-BA2+. Also, along with your textbook and with the My Finance Lab materials is a calculator app that you can download that we've talked about at the beginning of the course. You can also use that. Make sure that you set your payments per year in your calculator to 1. We'll talk about this more in class, but payments per year must be set equal to 1 for the interest rate to be a period rate. Interest is entered as a percent and not a decimal in your calculator. Now, there are times where we may have more than 1 period per year, compounding more than 1 time a year. But I would recommend that you still use 1 payment per year and then you do the adjustments by hand. We'll also talk about that in class. Another thing you should do after watching these videos especially is to make sure that you set the number of decimal places on your calculator to 4 places to the right of the decimal point. So let's look at valuing a stream of cash flows. These were the rules developed in Chapter 3, just to remind you. Rule 1, only values at the same point in time can be compared or combined. You can't look at the present value of one and the future value of another investment and compare them. You must look at both the present value or both the future value. Rule 2, to calculate the future value, we are compounding the cash flows. Rule 3, to calculate the present value of a future cash flow, we must discount those cash flows. We're going to continue to use these rules in this chapter as well as throughout the course. With time, these will become second nature to you.